Hello. This is the Behind Enemy Lines Sports Podcast, except this might be a YouTube episode, just because I don't have all my news together again. But I do have NFL news, so that's what we're going to talk about. I want to talk about the Seahawks, the situation going on with preseason, just other stories going on. So let's just jump right into that. So Seattle, they played the Denver Broncos this last weekend on Saturday. Basically got blown out, but it's also preseason, so what do you expect? With that being the case, there weren't too many things to be impressed about other than maybe individual players like DJ Dallas, Jordan Brooks. There's just a few players worth talking about, but I think probably the ones that stood out the most were definitely Alex Magoo, and oh man, there was a tight end. Oh, I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, so Alex Magoo did terrible, and actually he ended up getting cut the next day or beginning of this week. So no more Alex Magoo for Seattle. Now we are down to Geno Smith and oh man, the other depth player that Seattle has. I can't recall his last name, but anyways, Magoo's out. I think at the end of the day, I believe the next one is Saturday, so I think Geno Smith probably has a very good chance, high likelihood of remaining Seattle's backup quarterback. Seattle also cut tackle Cedric Lattimore. Um, I don't know what else to say about Cedric Lattimore. He wasn't doing very well, so he wasn't blocking well. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Alex Magoo and the way he played. Let's see. I don't know how many possessions he played, but in the first half, I believe he had 5 possessions. Ended up having 3 interceptions, 3 separate possessions. But I will say a point that I came across that I did realize during the game was that at least these interceptions didn't come from first, I can't even think. From the beginning of the possessions, like the first down, yeah, there were several first downs before these interceptions took place, or at least one. At least the ball was moving down the field, and it came more so from Alex Magoo just making mistakes, and I believe the tight end was also making some mistakes. But either way, Alex Magoo just didn't look great. But as far as the scheming goes for the team, they're actually moving the ball. I mean, Denver was playing their starters in the second and third string, although didn't look amazing, they did move the ball a bit. And Alex Magoo, I mean, when he would get the ball out quick, he was hitting his receivers. But whenever he was sitting in the pocket for a little too long, and when I say a little too long, I mean a normal amount of time for let's say Russell Wilson, for example. Um, it seemed like when he tried to start extending the play, that's when he made his mistakes. But if he took the snap, dropped back, and took his first read or second read, he was making his throws pretty dang well. But once it came time to analyze the situation, it seemed like he wasn't doing so well. One thing that stood out to me while looking at the statistics for this game were that Denver had 0 penalties. Seattle had 9 for 57. And that's pretty bad. Although they weren't the starters, I mean, these still are players that will be playing if a starter goes out or if a starter needs a moment. So it is a little concerning for me because I did notice during the game, and this is a small thing, but on special teams, I'm just remembering from the very minimal experience I have playing football in high school. Discipline is probably one of the most important things. You could have so much skill. You could probably be one of the best players in the game. But if every game it's expected that you're going to be getting at least 2 penalties, your value really takes a drop. And I kind of saw that from the second and third string players, especially on special teams. It just seemed like players weren't finishing plays. And I'm not saying necessarily when it came to pursuing the ball or tackling. Let's say the person receiving the kick was going to fair catch it. A lot of times, a team that has very I would say, strong discipline, you'll see them run through the back of the end zone. That just shows good discipline and finishing the plays, and you're not taking any plays off. I didn't see very much of that. I saw a lot of guys running to the ball, but then after getting to the guy who, or at least getting to the general area where the ball was at, they just kind of trailed off to the sideline. Whereas in previous years, you definitely see the guys running through the back of the end zone, or at least running into the end zone to essentially simulate finishing the play. So I wonder if discipline is an issue in the lower levels of the roster. Hopefully not, because it would not be great to see, a defensive line get swapped out, and then all of a sudden you got guys jumping off sides, or even offensive linemen jumping off sides. We also had some bad injuries. So Ben Burkervin and linebacker Ben Burkervin and John Ursua, the wide receiver, are out. They both have season-ending ACL tears. And man, what a disappointment. Because Ursua, I mean, he may not have been the best receiver we had on our team, but he had good potential, and he was doing decent. So it just really sucks. So basically, a receiver that we were... Because one thing Seattle's been looking for is that third receiver to play along with DK and Tyler Lockett. And I think we were hoping that Ursua was going to be that person, because we don't have David Moore anymore, I believe was his name. So I'm not even sure who on our depth would be the next guy up with Ursua being out. At least not right now. So that sucks. Maybe Seattle will end up signing a guy if our depth doesn't look very good on the receiver side of things. But coming up, Seattle's playing the Chargers, and I really hope they're going to be playing more of the starters, because the Denver game, Seattle played, I believe, oh man, I didn't even catch how many starters, but I know it was majority second and third string players. And I had to go be a dad for a second. So basically, just to sum up what I was saying, just Seattle's second string and third string guys didn't look very impressive. Expectedly, of course, playing against first string players. And, hopefully this coming week against the Chargers, Seattle will put more starters out there and get a good little preview of how the season will look. So, Luke Wilson. I wanted to talk about Luke Wilson because, what was this? Today is the 25th of August. And what was it? Yesterday, the 24th, Luke Wilson announced that, or not even Luke Wilson announced, Seattle had announced that Luke Wilson was being re-signed. And then today, it comes out that Luke Wilson is retiring. And I was excited to see Luke Wilson again. He's not the best tight end ever. I mean, clearly Seattle feels that, he's not at least good enough to be on their roster year to year. They've re-signed Luke Wilson a few times now. And I believe he was just hanging out waiting for a team to pick him up, or maybe even waiting for Seattle to need him. I think he knew Seattle was, right there, and they always seem to call him when they need a tight end, and Seattle has an issue keeping their tight ends healthy. So he ended up needing to retire, and it was because he has pericardial, what is it called? Pericardial effusion. And basically, when I looked this up, it is a buildup of fluid in, I believe, empty spaces around the heart or something to that, with, layman's terms. I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know exactly. But basically, the symptoms were somewhere it's like if you deal with some of these symptoms, then it would be very difficult to play football. He could be dealing with chest pain, fainting, I guess, fast breathing, difficulty breathing, and we don't know if it's severe. He didn't quite specify, what his symptoms are, but the severe symptoms are definitely ones that you couldn't play the sport with, especially with the possibility of fainting and dizziness, lightheadedness, and all that stuff. It's just disappointing. It kind of sucks. I feel happy in a way that Luke Wilson is putting his health first, because you'd hate to see a guy go out and play and end up affecting the rest of his life when he's only in his 30s. Or I don't even know how old Luke Wilson is. I believe he's in his 30s, maybe even late 20s. So good thing he's choosing his health. Go take care of that. I guess Seattle will just have to figure out what they're going to do tight end without him. So yeah, there's that. We're going to stick with NFL stuff, and I think that's probably what this is going to be, just an NFL episode. We had a lot of stuff going on. I think today we had, what was it? Oh, who was it? I can't think. Jacksonville Jaguars. They announced that Trevor Lawrence is going to be their starting quarterback, not Gardner Minshew. And Teddy Bridgewater will be starting for the Broncos week 1, which I expected. I mean, after the game against Seattle, Teddy Bridgewater looked like the far superior quarterback. I thought in the first week with the Broncos that Drew Lock showed a lot of progress from the last year, but after this last game, seeing that he played against second and third string players, depth players, with his starting team, man, the guy, Drew Lock, I mean, he might just end up being a backup quarterback for the rest of his career, unless he, I would hope that he will advance, but it's not looking too promising right now. So, anyways, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, good for him. I mean, exciting for him. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not sure what to think about that. I feel like Trevor Lawrence, when I saw him playing, I thought to myself, he doesn't look like he's quite ready to start. And I say that because he just doesn't look super accurate, at least yet. I mean, he's close, but I definitely saw him underthrowing passes, overthrowing passes, passes off the mark. But I can't say for sure how Gardner Minshew played. I didn't see any of his tape yet. But, I mean, if they put Trevor Lawrence out there, I mean, they must... My guess is Gardner Minshew mustn't be doing much better, or maybe he's doing just as well, and they're going to give it to the young guy. I mean, I think if I was a coach, I probably would start Gardner Minshew at least for week 1 to see how that goes. And then, depending on how that played out in the first week, then from there make your decision. Just because Gardner Minshew has NFL level experience, whereas Trevor Lawrence does not. So, but hey, maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe week 1, Jacksonville will come out with their full package, and Trevor Lawrence will look amazing. And I mean nothing, because I wanted to talk about Mac Jones and Cam Newton, because Cam Newton he violated the unvaccinated players protocol. So basically he had a medical appointment that the team approved, but supposedly there was a misunderstanding on how the protocol worked as far as logging your tests. And Cam Newton ended up taking an unauthorized test out of the region that he was in, so I don't know exactly the rules, but basically that meant that he violated protocol, and so he had to miss 5 days, or be 5 days away from the team. And as of yesterday, I believe he had already served 2 days. So by this weekend, he would definitely be ready to play, but he wouldn't have any on-field reps. So it gives Mac Jones a very good opportunity to steal and seal that starting position. And even Bill Belichick said something to that effect. He said it is a big moment for Mac Jones to prove that he's basically the starter. And to be completely honest, this is a little different than the Trevor... I was about to say Trevor Jones. The Gardner Minshew situation. Because I feel like Cam Newton is better than Gardner Minshew, has more experience, was an MVP, and if we're going based off of the previous game, looked really good. Like, comparing him to how he played the previous season to the way he played in that second preseason game, that looked like Cam Newton that was ready to ball out, because he was super efficient and just looked good. But so does Mac Jones. And that's the thing that Trevor Lawrence doesn't have, is I feel like Mac Jones as a quarterback in the Patriots system looks better than Trevor Lawrence right now in Jacksonville's system. His passes are accurate. He can actually throw the ball at a decent. I don't know what I'm saying. I would say depth. But that's not right. At a decent distance and actually hit his targets. Very good. I mean, I would say he's probably got better decision making right now than Trevor Lawrence does. So I'm not going to say that Cam Newton's immediately written off as a starter. I think in order for that to be sealed this week because I believe Patriots have a co-practice with the Giants. So if Mac Jones looks good in that, and then I would say Mac Jones would probably have to be, I don't want to say perfect, but he'd be decently close to perfect. I think you would probably have to throw over 100 yards, probably over 150, and probably complete maybe more than 80% of his passes in order for him to become the starter. I just say that safely. Otherwise, if not, then I don't think there's any harm in putting Cam Newton as the starter. Again, at least for week 1 and seeing how that goes. Or at least up until a point where you're like, okay, Cam Newton has hit a wall, so now it's time to see what Mac Jones can do. I think Mac Jones has the ability to be the starter for the Patriots week 1. And Cam Newton, if he doesn't start, then I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he'd be a little disgruntled, but I mean, it is what it is. Who else, though? Oh, man. The 49ers, they got Jimmy G, and damn, I can't think of the rookie right now because I'm blanking. If it comes to me, then I'll say it, but all I'll say is Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think he should be the 49ers starter. I know I've been reading reporters talk about Jimmy G needs to stay healthy so that way that he can start and stuff, blah, blah, blah. You know, I think Jimmy G, I think his time is done in the 49ers organization. The rookie they brought in, who they didn't expect to bring in, I've watched some of his film, and man, he looks like he can actually throw the ball way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting week 1 and Jimmy G is sitting. But if Jimmy G doesn't play, then, I mean, would he be a viable backup? I mean, maybe, but the guy just can't throw deep. The guy sucks at throwing deep. He's not accurate, and he doesn't have a good deep ball. So Jimmy G's kind of walking on thin ice, I think. So off of the rookies, onto the Jets. The Jets had a lot of stuff going on this last weekend and the beginning of this week. They lost Carl Lawson, their defensive end, to a ruptured Achilles, which sucks because they really needed defensive line help, and Carl Lawson was their guy, and now he's out for the season. So the Jets are going to have to look somewhere else, man. I don't know who else they could bring up. I mean, I'm not even familiar with their depth, but as far as free agency is concerned, I mean, well, as far as free agents are concerned, I can't think of a good name off the top of my head that they could pick out and put in. They also had another player, linebacker Jared Davis. He was out with a left ankle injury against Green Bay. That was another player that they've lost. And actually, yeah, he's out. So he will be gone for a little bit. And they also lost defensive end Vinny Curry. And he's been with the Jets for a year or two now, I believe, or 3. And he didn't even get a snap. The dude didn't even make it onto the field, and he's already out for the season. And that sucks. The Jets. Man, Robert Saleh's got a lot of work ahead of him. But honestly, I believe in Robert Saleh. I mean, as far as offense is concerned, which is what really matters here, if the Jets want to be true competitors in their division. But as it comes to the defense, that's one thing that I think Robert Saleh has shown and proven is that he can make magic with nothing. The guy can take literal dirt and turn it into a workable defense. I mean, that 49ers defense last year was so injury-ridden and somehow still managed to have a freaking awesome defense. So the Jets defense, I think Robert Saleh can work some magic. They may not be number 1 in the league or even top 5, 10, but I think they could hang around somewhere in the middle, which with these guys they've lost, I think I don't want to say it's their their best, what they're looking to, but I think it's probably, you know, what we would expect from this season at least, especially being, Robert Saleh being the new coach, new staff, or at least somewhat, and similar players, some new pieces, but Jets, maybe we'll see. We'll see if they can turn around. As long as they do better than last year, then I guess what's there to complain about? Patriots, I actually already kind of talked about this. Cam was out. Yeah, I think that I'll just skip that then because I've already talked about it. But going into next week, and then also into the first game against the Colts for Seattle. Man, if Carson Wentz, there's some videos of him actually running around, throwing the ball around a little bit, and looking pretty chipper. Actually getting the ball out. Well, I shouldn't say getting the ball out, but actually putting some weight on his foot, which is surprising. So as far as Seattle and the first game, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I'm scared because they have the new offensive scheme with Shane Waldron. And man, Ken Norton Jr., I have so many mixed feelings about the way he runs the defense. But if we can get the second half of the season defense that we had last year, at the beginning of this year and the remainder of this year, we'll be fine on defense. But offense, that's where I have a lot of questions. Like, I wonder how this new scheme is going to work with the team, because I'm just concerned there'll be a lot of mistakes. But if there are, I just hope they get ironed out in the beginning of the year and Seattle can make a run at the end. I see a lot of people putting Seattle down at 3 in our division and everything. I think Seattle would land at least at number 2 in the NFC West. I think the Rams, I would probably say they have the best shot at number 1, winning the division. In Seattle, I think they probably, land 2, and they could potentially upset the Rams. But that's just me being a fan and hoping. So, I think Seattle will have a good year on defense at least. The offense, I'm so unsure about it that I don't know where I could say where I think how well they'll do. But I think this is where I'll wrap this up. I don't want to ramble too much. The camera angle probably switched up between cuts because I got excited because I got my new camera stand. So there's going to be a new little angle, or just a different angle, a little lower because right now I'm standing up and it kind of sucks. So hopefully next time we see this, I'll be sitting down. And is there anything else I want to talk about? Nah, there's some UFC stuff. There's definitely a lot of other sports stuff going on. The Mariners are trying to work their way into a wild card spot, and they're looking pretty sweet. Except not against Houston. They got basically blown out, and Houston almost swept. But I just watched them play the A's, and they looked alright. So, man, I hope the Mariners make it to the playoffs, or make it into a wild card spot. I don't think they'll make it to the World Series, but it'll still be fun. I'm actually enjoying when I watch baseball. Whereas before I didn't used to like the sport, but now, maybe it's because I'm a little older, wiser, understand it a bit better. So, all right, guys and gals, see you next time.